You are listening to the When I Said Yes podcast, where we are simplifying and accelerating your success by helping you find your next yes. What's up? What's up? What's up? You are listening to the When I Said Yes podcast, and I'm your host, Daryl Stinson. Thank you for tuning in today because we are going to say yes to what makes sense. That's right. What makes sense for our lives right now in this season. I want to introduce you to my very special friend, Jasmine Murray, who entered the branding industry as a brand ambassador and event coordinator for the lifestyle liquor company Ciroc Vodka at only 19 years old. While establishing her brand as your most dependable PR girl, she was working in a lead position for brands in large projects, including the AA NBC Literary Awards, hosted by Cynthia Bailey, the 2016 One Music Fest headlined by Ice Cube, and the Dungeon Family, corporate-sponsored events and partnerships with brands like MCM, Hennessy, and Moet, and many red carpet award shows. In 2017, Jasmine launched JMPR Public Relations, an event management agency with the mission of elevating brands through the public and connecting media to newsworthy talent. Jasmine had the pleasure of working with an array of diverse talent, including stars on E! Entertainment, WeTV, VH1, Lifetime, and a reputable Rolodex of clients in sports, tech, fashion, wellness, and lifestyle industries. After rebranding and refocusing in 2019, Jasmine had created Milan 360 strategies to propel her vision with a new look and new service features. Milan 360 now offers a multitude of brand help features to increase the exposure of the firm's clientele, including social media management, digital marketing, and brand consulting. Outside of PR, Jasmine co-founded Cupcakes and Convos in 2016 to highlight her advocacy for sexual abuse awareness and suicide prevention. Jasmine is also in the process of finalizing her first children's book called My Little Publicist, which was written to teach small children more about creative industries and encourage them to create their own career path while simultaneously introducing them to more mentally stimulating verbiage. Her overall mission is to mentor as many upcoming moguls as possible with a unique focus on leading minority women to more paid positions and career expansion. You're going to enjoy this conversation. She dropped so many nuggets. Her story is inspiring, and she's just an overall good person. So let's say yes to what makes sense. Listen to this. I'm so excited. I am here with my girl, Jasmine, and first connected with her at the Power Brunch in Atlanta. And she was dropping so many nuggets. I was like, oh, okay. You can tell people who see it's one thing to be good at something, it's another to be able to teach it. And being in PR and being an entrepreneur, business owner, she's able to teach it and do it well. And so I'm like, man, we're gonna do some good stuff together. And she had me on her IG live, and I blew that thing up. And I said I gotta get her on the podcast. As a Black woman, she's phenomenally brilliant, and I so believe in everything that she's got going. So do me a favor, tell the audience a little bit about yourself, and let's get into your journey.
Well, thank you for that. Everybody's just been speaking so high of me lately. I'm like, wow, am I just great? So yeah, like you said, my name is Jasmine. A lot of people have just kind of deemed my industry name is Jasmine Milan. I got started in PR when I was 19 years old working for Ciroc Vodka, and from there, I really, really wanted to work behind the scenes. I think that a lot of girls that were my age at that time were looking to actually be Ciroc girls, and that was just never a thing for me. I never wanted to be in front of the camera. I always wanted to be the person pulling the strings. And so somehow I found my way from marketing to branding to public relations, and I absolutely love where the career has brought me and just a lot of the opportunities that it's afforded me. I can honestly admit that I never wanted to own my own business. And I think that a lot of the people that I know to be powerhouses actually started out the same way. But yeah, so I started my business after I was doing PR for Bloomingdale's and Lenox Mall. I was supposed to move to California, actually. I was engaged And that went south. So came back to Atlanta. I literally had like $2,500 in my pocket, and I was like, "What better time for me to start a business?" It was so crazy. I just felt like I had nothing to lose, so why not? And it ended up being one of the best decisions for me. So from this platform, a lot of people love working with me for some of the same reasons that I actually thought people wouldn't want to work with me. Me being young, me being female, and me being Black, those have actually turned out to be some of my greatest strengths that have offered me the opportunity to work with some of the most well-known clients that people love.
Yeah, yeah. So how did you get like that's a trailblazing move, right? Like, so how did you get in some of those doors? Because I know there's people that are like, man, I want that. I want to defy the odds and actually have something that seems like it would be a weakness be used as strengths and something that people actually want to work with. So how did were you able? Because I hear a lot of people that are young, Black, just beginning, and they will use that as an excuse of why the opportunities won't open up for them. But for you, you actually turned that to your advantage. So how were you able to do that?
I'll be honest, it took me a while. Um, and for good reason, I feel like I had the same hesitations that everyone else has. When you come into an industry that's as huge and evolving as PR, it doesn't seem like it's a wide open lane. There were tons of people who I felt were more credible than me, had worked with clients that were more celebrity or more top tier talent as they might refer to, and so it was very intimidating. And I think I tried to talk myself out of the opportunity of starting a business for a very long time. And I finally decided to do it. I think the extra kicker for me was when I was applying for these high level marketing corporate careers. And I was getting denied with no explanation. Like, it made no sense. I had the expertise. I knew I had the skills. I had the recommendations. Like, in my mind, the job was in the bag. And just the way I just kept on getting, denial after denial after denial, it was just like, okay, clearly this is not the direction that God wants me to go in. So I'm just going to go with the business because that's clearly what I'm being forced to do. And I think it was a great decision.
Well, obviously, yeah, because now you're crushing it and been able to help a lot of people just gain exposure. Like what would you say was a way you were marketing yourself early on?
So when I first got started in PR, I did a lot of internships. I think the internship that a lot of people know me from was when I interned with the Garner Circle, owned by Nicole Garner. She is absolutely amazing. I owe so much to her. But from that internship, I was able to work with Hennessy and Moet. I worked with MCM. We did events with Martell. We worked with pretty much every large venue and all of the talent here in Atlanta. And I was able to also work on one music fest in the year of 2016, where we had Ice Cube and the Dungeon Family hosting. So I was also able to work with talent like Erica Badu and Jasmine Sullivan, people who I loved and always admired. And I remember every single event that I was set to work on, um, everybody just always would say, like, you're a very dependable person. Like, I get down in the media pit and I'm willing to do whatever. Like, no job is too grungy or like too beneath me, I would say. And so if I have to pick up trash off the red carpet, I'm gonna do it. If I have to help you fix flies in your hair or fix your dress and everything, like, I'm just willing to do all of the extra stuff that a lot of people would say that's not my job or I don't get paid for that. And so before I even started my career, like, I just kept hearing that dependable narrative. And so someone just deemed me your most dependable PR girl, and I ran with it. I sometimes forget that that's what I've been deemed, but that's absolutely where that came from. PR, I think oftentimes people see the talent that we work with and they think it's such a glamorous industry, and it can be, absolutely. But a lot of people don't want to talk about the events that we have to go to, and you will never really see me with my hair or my makeup done, and I'm behind the scenes with a t-shirt and sweating and anxiety through the roof, and just needs head down in my chest, and I'm having to just work. A lot of people don't talk about that, and I'm that person that really sheds light on that part of the working industry.
Wow. Wow, man, I so admire you for that. I remember, like, I actually went to college for business, and then I was like, you know what? I don't know if they're really teaching me anything that's going to help me be an entrepreneur. They're just trying to really make me like be like, a CEO of a company for a Fortune 500 company or something. I was like, I don't really want to do that. I want to work for myself. So then I was like, I'm going off the deep end. I'm going to broadcasting. So I did broadcasting for like a year, and then man, the classes was hard. Like they had me watching like old school movies and talking about the cinematography involved in it, and I wasn't doing that well, and so I wasn't living right either, and so
Oh,
then I was like, I found PR. I went to a PR 101 class, and I fell in love with PR because of the event side.
mhm.
Right? Now, when I actually got in the industry and started working for the university, that's when I learned some of the uglier side of it, right? Like I learned like media will try to chew you up and spit you out. I've learned, how much computer work is involved in it. And I learned how you have to manage brand personalities and people that are going to be in front of camera and prepare them. Like, but still it's something exhilarating about managing events and helping people develop a good public image and reputation that I don't know, it's exciting to me. Why did you choose PR?
I joke all the time, and I actually tell people that PR chose me. I really don't. I can't remember the details of how exactly I ended up choosing PR. But I will say that when I finally discovered this industry, just like you said, I loved how hands on it is. I love the event side. I love that exhilarating feeling when it's day of a show and it's like, let's just get out there and let's get to it. And I think it's really rewarding when you're working on a project, sometimes months, maybe even a little over a year up to time, and the day comes and you can truly see how you played a part in building this.
Mhm.
When I finish working with a client after our contract is up or whatever the end of that working relationship may be, and I can look back and say, wow, over quarter one and quarter two of this year, when I met them, they started here. And since them
Mhm.
working with me, I've gotten them this brand awareness, or I was able to get them more engagement on their platforms. I was able to, pin them with this audience and this part of the culture and this part of the community, and just knowing that no matter where their brand takes them or where life takes them, I always played a part in that. That's very rewarding for me to just have that a part of my portfolio.
Absolutely. Love it. Love it. What would you say, like, why do you think that the PR industry doesn't have more black females in it?
So, if we're being honest, and I was actually told this by one of my mentors, and he said to me, the PR industry is actually made for the Caucasian woman.
Mm.
And I believe that it is. If you think of some of the major production companies, all of the major music labels, their PR department or the head of that department, 9 times out of 10 is a white woman. And that's
Mhm.
cool, but I think that the more our society progresses, we're going to have to push more inclusivity.
Mhm.
And with PR, I think my issue with the industry is that so many people associate success or growth of their brand with being associated with white brands or white team members,
Mhm.
and they forget about Black media. They forget about the
Mhm.
community that's given them, a back to stand on to push them and leverage
Right.
their brands to get this attention. And I am absolutely one of those publicists that sees the value in you having a Black publicist or just Black people on your team, especially if you are Black talent. You
Yeah.
know, like it doesn't make any sense for you to build your career to be so great and then say, I'm dropping all of the Black folks and I got to go get me a white woman. Like that, for some reason, a lot of people think that's how I know I made it is when I have a white
Mhm.
person on my team working
Mhm.
for me. And I think it's the opposite. If you even think at one of our greatest stars, Beyonce, her publicist is Black. She has been with Beyonce since Destiny's Child, and a lot of people did not know that up until maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And there was another Black publicist, Ernest Dukes, who actually shed light on that. So all of us behind the scenes, we knew who Yvette was. We loved Yvette. But a lot of people probably thought Beyonce had a white publicist, and she does not.
Right.
And even recently, I signed a client who's a very well-known style influencer. And upon our call, she said to me, it's very important that as I enter this next season of my career, that I have a Black publicist on my team. And I was on this onboarding call with her, and I literally was like, I could cry right now, because you get it. And now you will really allow me the space to do what I know I can do best, and trust me to handle that job in the best way as well. Having a Black publicist on your team, and again, this is no shade to any non-Black person, but I think that when you are Black talent, your publicist knows you. They speak your language, and no matter where your career takes you, we know how to always keep you invested into the Black community, because that is important. As a member of talent, you fall off all the time. This industry is very fickle, so people can love you on a Monday and they hate you on a Thursday. And when that Thursday comes, you're going to wish you had the Black community to stand on their backs once again. And so I think that that's where talent goes wrong, but that's why it's super important for you to always have a publicist, and always just having a Black publicist who's not trying to turn you into something that you're not.
That's good. That's so good. Man, I got so many questions I want to ask about that. I want to put a pin there for a second, because I just feel like we need to lay a little foundation for some people, because I forget that this is my background and it's your background. But just for the person, talk about the importance of PR. Why would someone need to hire a publicist in the first place?
So when I get asked this question, I always like to start with differentiating between PR and marketing. And this is the best way that it was said to me, was actually said by Candace Nicole, who's another well-known publicist here in Atlanta. But she says, marketing is sales and PR is visibility, And I think when a lot of people have brands, they think, oh, I just need one or the other, and you actually need both, because they're very key components. I would say the best time for you to hire a publicist is when you have of course, your brand foundation. Hopefully you have a marketing plan in place, because if you're not making any sales, there's no reason for me to come on the team and help you push something that's not there. But you have to have a story developed. And a lot of people have not figured out what their story is. People will say, oh, well, I'm talent, or, oh, I have a hair company, or I have a restaurant, and they think that they deserve Forbes behind this restaurant. And I'm like, that's not really how this works. So we come in and we make it all make sense. I think that people have so many different names for us, mountain movers and magicians and all of this stuff that we're not really trying to rise to that occasion. But a publicist is valuable because we bring it all together and we make it make sense. You can create sales, but if no one can find you, when it's time for me to make a purchase for hair or clothes, or to go to a new restaurant, then you will never see any more sales beyond, your local community. So we are able to take you from your level 1 to your level 10 by connecting you with new audiences.
Love it. Love it, man. So one of the things that I believe in terms of like where I grew up at, is I grew up wanting to be an athlete, and my backup plan was to be a rapper. But it was because that was what was respected. I always tell the story to make this point. Is I remember being in accounting class, and I had this friend, I'm not gonna mention his name, because people are gonna look him up. But he was a whiz at his account. He would finish, I was a pretty good student, I was an all-A student, but he would finish his homework way before me. He was just he knew numbers. And yet he did not go to college for accounting, because it wasn't a respected industry in our hood. But being a rapper was. So what do you think he's doing now? He's rapping. And I'm like, man, you could be making 80 times more money if you were to just follow accounting. But since it's not respected, they didn't pursue it. And so like what's your thoughts on that? And how can we get Because I think the reason why there's not more Black women in PR is because they haven't seen more Black women in PR. And to me, like, you're an example of that. And somebody can see you and see, okay, she not bougie, she's still cool, but she knows her stuff. And I want to be like her. So, like, man, what's your thoughts on how do we change and get more Black women in PR, and then and kind of make that appeal to the person listening that says, man, I kind of want to get involved. I just don't know where to start.
Mhm. I agree.
No pressure.
Because that was a nice question. But I believe that you can't be what you can't see, essentially. And I remember even for me growing up, my dad has always been, such a successful entrepreneur. He's owned several businesses, and that's what I've seen from him. And then on the counter side of that, my mom has never had to work. Like she was the housewife, she went shopping, she traveled, she looked great while doing it. And so for me, I really didn't know where I was going to fall in the middle because it didn't connect at all. And then I also and love my family, but this is important. I don't think that my family spent a lot of time talking to me about my future and careers and what to do. And so when I finally got to like my senior year of high school, my mom was just like, "What are you going to major in college?" And I'm like, "You tell me what you want me to major in, Mom. I don't know. You've been telling me everything else my whole life." And so I tried a little bit of everything. At one point, I used to tell myself, I'm going to be a housewife just like my mom. And then I was like, I got a mouth on me. That's not going to work. Then I decided actually that I wanted to go to school for accounting because it was a good job. So I just went for something that I knew was going to pay the bills. So it was either that or be a lawyer. And I told my mom, I'm not going to law school for 15 years. I'm not doing it. So I actually got into an accounting program at Emory University, and they gave me a scholarship to go there. Upon me doing that program, I learned that accounting is something that I absolutely could do. It's just not something that I want to do. And I think that was my first, push toward more of a creative field, but I didn't know what it was going to be yet. So fast forward, when I first launched my business, I was motivated to start my company because I wanted to teach other interns what my mentors had taught me. Like they really, really took time out to help mold me. And a lot of the practices that I use even current day in my company are things that I was taught, and I'm not ashamed to preach that to other people because I think that people are not they're no longer seeing the value in interning or having a mentor and where that can take you. And all of my unpaid labor that everybody is afraid to do, it got me to this point where I'm 26 years old and I'm working with people that are twice my senior, and I'm getting paid more money than some people in this industry that have been doing this for 15 years longer than me.
Yes.
And so I started my company because I was really passionate about teaching other people this industry. And thank God I was able to sign clients so my interns could get real life experience.
Yeah.
But I think that if you're one of those people that's at a point where all you see is this type of person or this type of career, you have to get outside of your local community. That's just really important. I don't know what other piece of advice to give to people. And sometimes that could be hard because if you're a part of a community that doesn't allow you the resources to travel, maybe you just don't have it like that. And that is a lot of people's harsh reality. All you can depend on now is social media and what you can find online. And so that's why it's even more of a responsibility for people like me and people in positions like me to keep on going online and pushing out content to show people you can have this career and you can still enjoy being young and you can still do all of these other things. You just have a platform, so you have a greater sense of responsibility, but this is what people need to see. And so every single year I pride myself on doing things like going back to my old high school for career day and talking to them, because when I go and I'm like, what do y'all want to be? They say the same things. Like you get half the room that wants to be a doctor and the other half is like, I want to be like Lil Baby. And I'm like, okay, let's connect it and let's make it all make sense, because you want to be like Lil Baby, but I know you can't rap. You want to be a doctor, but your parents told you to be a doctor. In reality, you would probably work really well on the marketing team at Coca-Cola. And so they need someone who can come in and say, this is what I do, and this is how you can get into this field as well.
Wow. So good. So good. I love it so much. Oh man, there's so many rabbit trails I can go on with that, man. Let me do this. I think this would be helpful for our listeners. Let's say you start working with a company today. What's your process look like? Like what's kind of step one, step two, step three, and share what you feel comfortable sharing.
So my first step, of course, will be to get to know the client and see what their vision is, and then try to accelerate that a little bit. Because what I will say is, when people work with me, I don't want to be that publicist that just gives you my vision of what I want your company to be. But there are a lot of people that are very stuck on this is what I want for my company. And I know this is not going to work because I've worked in this industry long enough to know that has failed multiple times. It doesn't make sense. The timing of it doesn't make sense. And it's just not creative enough or it's been done before. So I have to get to know my client. From there, we create an action plan. And that could look very different for every client because everyone is different. With my company, we're a full service boutique. So I accept clients literally from sports to entertainment to lifestyle to corporate wellness. And then we also offer digital marketing services. So it just breaks down to what you're specifically looking for and how long you signed a contract. But the action plan is probably the most key component to it because that kind of creates a benchmark assessment that me and my team can follow, and there's a lot of other moving parts to it. You know, now I'm working with talent that has full teams. So it's not just me. They have social media managers, they have
Hmm.
business managers, brand managers. You know, I was just working with Alexis Scott. She literally has like 5 different managers. So you're working with all of these people and everyone has a different idea of what they want this one person to be. And
Right.
so it's even more important at that point to have a publicist on your team because we can take all of these visions and perspectives and make it make sense. And then create this full portfolio that we can follow for the next 1 or 2 quarters around this. So that's pretty much the start of my process. I feel like I would have to actually have like a real life example for me to
Yeah.
go in detail, but it really is just about creating a strategy, a custom strategy
Yeah.
that works for that client because PR is not a one shoe fits all process. And that's where a lot of people go wrong is they're hiring a publicist as well because they're like, oh, you worked with Jada Chavez or you worked with Alexis Sky and I want to be an influencer. And I'm like, you're not them. And that's
Right.
a good thing actually, because if you wanted to be just like them and they've already done it, then what room is there for you to come in and do something different? So
Yeah.
I create custom strategies and I try to tell my clients all the time, don't come to me telling me who you want to be like. Allow me to be creative and allow me to create a lane for you specifically so that after I'm off your team for whatever reason, you can still move forward with this strategy.
Mm, I love it. I love it. So I'm gonna ask you one more question, and then I'm going to give you space to just talk about what you got coming up, what you want people to how they can follow you, and all that. And then we're going to end with me just giving people some call to actions because this is all about moving our life forward. So here's my last question, formally for you. Talk about visibility. And how does one brand or company gain visibility in today's world?
Mhm. So, of course, you always have traditional media, which is going to always matter. It doesn't matter where these times progress to, media isn't going anywhere. But I think that we're reaching an age where the digital space is becoming more and more prevalent. It's very overwhelming. And when I was introduced to this industry, Instagram wasn't like that, you know. And even though I'm young, like even saying that out loud, I'm like, how old am I really? Because that's crazy. Like I experienced both sides.
Again, no.
Yeah. And so when I was taught, you know, the PR industry, it excluded a lot of online space. And so I've had to integrate a lot of new practices where not just I'm using social media for my platform, but I'm also learning it strategically, learning it as a business so that I can implement it into my client strategy. Visibility at this point, and I think moving forward, especially post pandemic, we're going to have to start being a lot more strategic with our content because right now there's a surplus of it and a lot of it is very repetitive or it just serves no purpose at all.
Oh, come on.
And then of course the algorithm is not on our side, and
Mhm.
so for people in creative spaces, we are being drained because people are coming to us like, I need new ideas for this video. I need new ideas for this post. And for anyone who's a creative, we know our brains just sometimes don't work like that. You can't turn me on and say, give me the best campaign of 2020 and think it's going to come to me like that. Sometimes it comes to me in a dream. Sometimes it comes to me in prayer. Sometimes it comes to me when I'm in the middle of eating a grilled cheese. Like, who knows? So I think that the important thing about visibility from this point and beyond is really for people to learn social media. Whether if you have someone on your team or not, you're going to always have to know how to operate the digital space and see how it's going to work for you. And that's honestly, it's becoming easier for people to cross connect audiences. You have huge brands who have never entertained doing an Instagram live with small business owners or small lifestyle influencers, and now they're doing it. Right. And so now is the time for people to make those connections. And with that, make sure you are prepared. Have your EPK, have your decks, have your one sheets, all of the stuff. Like, if you are a brand and you're serious about your brand, you want to be able to pull out a business card off rip. At the same time, if somebody says, I need your EPK, I can shoot this over to you in a text message right now. And so visibility, that's where the space in PR is headed as far as the digital space. But traditional media will always be there.
Love it. Love it. I'm going to use this as the bridge to give you the platform to talk to people about how they can work with you, connect with you, follow you, stalk you, all that stuff on social media, not in real life. Who send a call signal out to the ideal person or company that you would love to work with. I want them to hear this and say, that's me. I need to hit her up.
Oh, wow. I have never been asked that question in that way. You might have just stumped me, but I will say this. I think I've gotten to a point now where I'm able to be unique in this industry because I believe in a certain sense of morale. I don't take just any client anymore. And thank God I'm in the position where I can now say who and when and what and how much. But I love to work with people that are passionate about what they do. Do not come to me if you are a popcorn business owner, as I call them, the type of person who one day will say, I want to have a shoe line. And then the shoe line doesn't make $1 million in the first 2 weeks. And so they say, I'm going to be a real estate agent. I can't work with those people. I can't. Because if you're not loyal to your own passion, you will not be loyal to me. And one thing about having a publicist on your team is we're the kind of people that are in it for the long haul. We get so close to certain information and certain logistics and strategies with your team, like we're really, really invested. So when you find a publicist that works for you, 9 times out of 10, you're going to keep them for years on end. Right. But I would love to work with companies that are established, but still at a place where they feel like they can grow with me. Because I feel like no matter where this industry takes me, I'm a forever student to this game. I'm a forever student to life in general. And so no matter how big of a company or how big of a talent I work with, I want for them to see the space to grow with me as well.
I love it. I love it. How can people connect with you?
Yes, so follow me on Instagram at Jasmine Milan. You can follow my business at Milan 360 Strategies, or visit our website at www.milan360strategies.com. And, I'm a very approachable person. I think that people are shocked to see that, but I tell people all the time, like, I am the home girl. So if you need to crawl in my DMs and ask me a question, and I get it a lot from people that are in college and they're in positions that I literally saw myself in just a few years ago. I love those people, and I'm very passionate on connecting with those people because I wish I had someone that I could have just slid in the DMs and said, hey, sis, let me ask you a quick question about my life. So definitely do not be intimidated by anyone that you see me working with or how big you think my platform is. I am a regular person. I'm going to always be a regular person.
I love it. See, that's why I love you. And that's why you guys need to go follow her. Listen, you guys know what's coming. I'm getting ready to challenge you because information without application goes nowhere. And so, it's so much stuff I could say. What are we saying yes to? But here's what I'm saying right now. I think we need to say yes to what makes sense. When I hear Jasmine speak, I just hear a person who was being guided, but also just did what makes sense. Like what what was her gut telling her to do? Like I'm not gonna do something that doesn't align with my values. I'm not gonna do something just because it sounds like a good idea and it's not true to something I'm really interested in. And I'm gonna trust being guided. And that's what you need to do today. Ask yourself, what is where am I being guided? Yeah, that's what I want you to do. And then I want you to not worry about how you'll get there, what's next. I want you to just make the decision that you are going to do what makes sense. If you are passionate, if you hear her talking, you're like, I really want to do that. Like, because that sounds like me. That sounds like the type of work I would love waking up doing. Say yes. Say yes, and then hit her up in the DMs. She about to get like 100 DMs now. Jasmine, you crushed it. I so believe in you. I'm excited to see how people respond to this. I want you to show us some love. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a 5-star review, share it everywhere. Don't just take the information and walk away. Show some love. Help her, the community gain exposure because we live in an abundant world. And when she wins, I win. When you win, we all win. We're all connected. So let's elevate each other. And I am so excited. Man, I got to bring her back one day, sometime. All right. So till next time, I believe in you. Go kill it. You are listening to the When I Said Yes podcast, where we are simplifying and accelerating your success by helping you find your next yes.